GT the Bible Podcast coming to another episode. Just been reading through Matthew's 23, so I'm going to kind of talk about Matthew's 20. I won't take long. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share, please. As we pass this on, if you have any comments, you can definitely put some comments down below. So here Jesus is talking to the Pharisees, right? And he's talking about the importance of inward cleansing, like and being able to be pure of heart. And I've spoke in many of my podcasts about heart matters, right? It's a matter of the heart, like where the heart is. And people, and here's where you people get mixed up, right? There's a matter of the heart. The heart is what controls your actions, what you do. Your brain controls your logic, right? So the reasoning behind doing stuff is typically you think of things to be the reasoning behind doing stuff, but sometimes you have to get down to the bottom of it, right? And it's in here. And so what he's saying is, and this is where we're just do two verses, 25 and 26, Matthew's chapter 13. Okay. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are full of greed and self indulgence. Blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup and dish, and then the outside also will be clean. So, what he's saying is, appearances are only that. They're only appearances. Now, the evil that is inside people can show, will show. It will show. I mean, and some people will just look evil. Like, I mean, I don't know if you guys ever encountered somebody and you're just like, that person looks evil. They can look evil. I mean, and it can also come out in your appearance, right? Your looks can change because of the evil. Like when people start to look older when they're actually young, there's so much in here, right? So what happens is people think that people can't see inside the cup, but the thing about your walk with Jesus and like what he expects from you as a Christian, number one is you have to bear fruit. And you can't and your fruits are gonna show what's inside of you 110%. You can't mask your fruits. You can't you can't your your fruits can't be deceptive, right? They can't be because when you go to an apple tree and you grab an apple off of an apple tree, it tastes like an apple, looks like an apple, you know it's an apple, right? Now, if you grab an apple off of an apple tree and it tastes like an orange, we got a problem. You can't do that. That's impossible, right? And there's two things that this will affect. Number one, it will affect the fruits that you bear. Number two, it will affect that people's ability to see the light, right? Because if your insides aren't clean, if you're not working to clean your insides, you're not working to make sure your heart is pure, then you won't have the type of light that Jesus puts out. He can't put his light out through you, right? And so you have to clean the inside of the cup. And so once the inside of the cup is purified, then it will naturally show, right? Some people reckon it to like when you get baptized people will go in the water and then they will come out and there's a glow to them. That's the light. People see that. People that know you see that. People that have seen you before and get to see you after, they see that. Um, and so what I always ask people is this: I always ask people, I say, you know, do people know that you are a follower of Jesus by how you walk daily? And when I say daily, I mean every single footstep. You can't you can't you can't only exhibit Christ 1 day a week, 2 hours a day, 30 seconds a day, or whatever. You either are walking every single footstep with Jesus or you not. And that's the problem with a lot of Christianity is we as Christians we have to make a choice. When you make that choice, people might not like it. People might not vibe with that, right? And the people that don't vibe with that, they're gonna stick out, and then you're gonna have to make decisions based on what you're feeling from the inside. But that's once you cleanse your inside. Once you are able to um, be pure, right? And typically, when you're reborn, that's what the rebirth is. So when you go into the water, it's not so that way your outward appearance can look better. It's so that way your inward, what you are inside your heart, can change. And once that changes, then you start that walk. But I think the problem is, and I think part of the issue with the Pharisees that he's speaking of here is that they don't want to walk that walk in with every footstep. They want to walk that walk when they feel comfortable walking that walk, right? Or when they're around people that it makes sense to walk that walk, right? And so what Jesus is saying is that if you're going to walk with me, you need to walk with me all the time. You can't have pieces of me in here and the pieces of the world together in your heart, and then you call that clean and pure, right? You also can't trick people into thinking that you have pieces of me inside of you, and that I'm the more glorified piece, when in actuality how you walk is different. You're not walking every single step with Jesus. You walk in some steps. You have to make that discernment. You have to make that change. And I think that's the hardest change to make. And there's a reason why it talks about the broad and narrow path. Because when and what people don't understand is when Jesus, when the Bible's written, the Bible was written for believers. And so when it talks about the broad and narrow paths, it's being taught to believers. So amongst Christians, not all Christians are going to walk that walk, right? Very few will actually walk the walk that is spoken of. Most will be in the warmer category. They're going to consistently be warm, right? And that's an inward choice. That's a choice that comes from inside. And that's the reason why when I say heart matters, that's what I mean. It's a matter of the heart. Where's your heart at? Your heart can't be with Jesus sometime and sometime not. You're either going to be rocking with him or you're not rocking with him. Because Jesus said he'd rather you be hot or cold. I mean, you either going to be hot or you're going to be cold. Or if you lukewarm, it's going to be like he never knew you. When you go and it's time for your judgment, you're going to walk up to him. And you was going to church on Sundays and you was doing all this in church, but you wasn't walking that walk with every single step. When he come up to you, he gonna be like, I don't know you, because you wasn't walking with me every single step. It comes at a cost. He didn't say walk with me on Tuesdays and you walk with me for a couple hours or you walk with me for 10 minutes. No, this is not your daily exercise. This is a life choice that is consistent all the time, not some of the time, all the time. And so when you're walking that walk and you're taking those steps, every single step that you take has to exhibit Jesus Christ. If you're not exhibiting Jesus, like one thing that I always ask myself when I'm out here doing my thing, do my friends know I'm a believer? Do my non-believing friends know I'm a believer? First of all, if they don't know I'm a believer, then I'm not walking that talk. Then I'm not. They don't see it in me. Because what'll happen, and I can tell you this from experience in your friend space, is like when I was younger, when I was in high school, when I was going to church, I was going to home meetings and things like that. Like I had friends that were not believers. They wouldn't have known that I was a believer, right? I never spoke about Jesus to them. I never mentioned Jesus in anything, right? And so that's when I realized that I was keeping Jesus out of a part of my life that was probably the most important piece. Because who knows, one of those friends might have needed to hear something from what I believe, what I've lived through Jesus, and it could have helped them. So I may be holding back the opportunity for somebody to also walk that talk too. And I think that people, I mean, and I think that Christians in general, I don't know if it's a fear thing or if it's just like you compartmentalize Christianity. You compartmentalize your walk with Jesus. So it's all about, well, I'm gonna do my thing here with these certain people. I'm gonna rock with them, and they gonna know I'm rocking with Jesus. But these people over here, they not gonna know. So when I'm over here with these people, I'm not gonna really. I'm gonna do what they do. And so what happens is what when you do what they do, and if they're of the world, then you're allowing the world in, right? And now the world is and now and the thing about demonic entities. And the thing about Satan is that he ain't stupid. They're not stupid. I was watching a podcast and it's talking about how demons study you. They know you. They may know you better than you know your damn self. And you have to think about where Lucifer came from. He came from heaven. So he knows how it operates. He knows how God operates. There's a reason why he wanted to be praised like God because he knew how God operated, right? And so when he brought his sin of pride and rebellion down to earth and then caused the sin in the garden, how did he get to Eve? He got to Eve from the, hey, like, I look at what you could have. Look at what you could see. You could see things just like God. You could be on the level of God because when people view that, they're like, man, if I could see and just kind of discern things like God does, I'm on the level of God. right? So he utilized the pride that was in Eve to get her to sin. And so people think that, and that's the crazy thing, is that Eve could have, in that moment. And I'm not getting into the whole female and male stupid stuff. That's dumb. In that moment, if anybody in that situation, right? What if that serpent is one of your friends that you hang out with that's not a Christian? What if that serpent is one of your friends, but you're not spending time with Adam? She could have been spending time with Adam because Adam was of God. God put Adam here. So what was in Adam, right, was what God put in him. So God was there. So Eve had the opportunity to dwell with God, but she chose to dwell with something that is from the earth. And so that's where your walk matters. When you walk every single step with Jesus, it makes it harder for those evil entities, those evil things, the spiritual warfare that's going on around you. It makes it harder for you to be infiltrated. Will you be attacked? Yes. Infiltrated though, if you rocking with Jesus, it's harder to get infiltrated. Like they can hit you and come to try to knock you down, but it's harder to knock you down because you are walking every single step with Jesus. Now, when you walk some steps with Jesus and in the other steps you ain't walking with Jesus, it's easier for them to infiltrate you because when you're walking steps apart from Jesus, you're walking steps apart from your protection, right? He is your protection. And so that's the reason why when he talks, I mean, it's so deep when he talks about how they are trying to appear a certain way, but what's inside them is wicked. The problem with that is what's inside of you is what you'll attract, what you'll be drawn to. You're going to be drawn to whatever it is that's inside of yourself. If you don't change what's inside of you, you will continue to be drawn to the things of the earth, the spiritual warfare, the battles. And so you're drawn to the things and then you get infiltrated because as you're drawn to them, you're drawn further apart from God. So the further the more deeper you go dive into that realm, the further you go off the path, the harder it is for you to be protected, number one. But then you can get so far gone that you don't even know how to get back. You don't walk so many steps the other direction. And that's the reason why it's important to walk every single step with Jesus. Because if you are walking every single step with him and for him, there's no question about which direction you got to go, right? When you walk apart from him, then there are questions because you don't know which way you got to go. You don't know where's the answers out here, right? More easily deceived. And so just in having your internal and part of the problem here with the Pharisees is that when you get to a point where you see yourself as a certain thing, it's hard to unsee yourself as a certain thing. So if you see yourself as like an upstanding Christian, but you actually not, it's hard for you to get down off the pedestal once you put yourself on, right? The only person that can really not get you off the pedestal is going to be God. And when God break you down, he break you all the way down. He breaks you down to build you up, but he will break you all the way down. You might have to lose everything. And so, and that happened. And so it is imperative as Christians that we focus on the mirror. What is looking back at you? What's inside that person that's looking back at you when you look in the mirror? And you got to be honest with yourself. If you can't be honest with you, you can't really be honest with God because you can't. I mean, you may think that you're tricking him, but you can't trick him. That's I didn't try it. I didn't been there. I didn't try it. You cannot trick him. He is not stupid. Like he knows you. He knows your every move. And when you think about how well he knows you, think about how well Satan also knows you. And so if you aren't focusing on making sure that your insides are clean, you're too busy worried about the outside image. And really that's just to impress people at the end of the day. Like you're just trying to put an impression upon people of I'm this. Um, it's harder to do that and it takes so much energy, it's draining than to just actually focus on you and focus on what you need to do to be able to grow to become the thing that you want to be. Like if you want to be a giving Christian, become a giving Christian, then you got to start working on generosity. You got to start working on that, right? And that's an internal battle. If you want to be a Christian that speaks life to people, well, number one, you have to be able to speak life to yourself. If you can't look in the mirror and speak life to yourself, how are you going to speak life to somebody else? And so it always starts. Everything really starts in here in the heart. And so that's the message today. Is really just focus on the heart matters. Focus on internal, and that will become the external naturally. And people will be drawn to you. I mean, like when I was in high school, I brought so many friends to it was crazy. I mean, in droves because I was walking a certain walk. Like I had my struggles, but even in my struggles, you could see that I was still trying to walk that walk. I'm like I may have been like Jesus may have been over here a little bit, and I may have been over here a little bit, but he was in grasp, constantly in grasp. So I was trying my best to walk and it's hard because you got to deny yourself so much to walk consistently. But if every step isn't for him, right, to glorify him, then you start to step to glorify yourself. And when you start to step to glorify yourself, you start to idolize yourself. Once you start to idolize yourself, you start to put yourself on this pedestal, thinking, okay, well, maybe I don't have to walk over here with him. I can do this thing on my own. And then that's when pride hits. And when pride hits, as soon as pride hit, trust and believe Satan coming. As soon as he see that you got pride in you, he gonna be on top of you quick. Because pride was the first sin, and it's the easiest sin for him to get in. Because if you don't think that Satan understands pride, my man got thrown out of heaven because of his own pride. So he definitely understands the power that pride could have. And so as soon as he see that, you done got boastful and got prideful about yourself, you big headed, you think you got it. Oh, he coming. Oh, he 100% is coming. Like if he sees that you aren't willing to do the work to fix what needs to be fixed on the inside, he coming. He coming. And when he comes, the spirits that he brings with him, I can do a whole other podcast on the spirits that he brings with him. Because like I said, it's a spiritual battle out here. It's not what you see. And if you don't understand, if you don't understand the different spirits, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Because how do you fight a battle, right, if you don't know who the enemy is? And there's so many Christians that walk around today that are fighting a battle that have zero clue who the enemy is. Like they have no clue. You ask them about the spirit of Baal, they don't know. You ask them about the spirit of Jezebel, they have zero clue. They're like, what is that? And it's like, that's a spirit that Satan can place upon you. You might have the spirit right now today and not even know it. So you might be being used by Satan within spiritual warfare. You don't even know it. And Christians can be used all the time because they don't know. You got to know the playbook. You got to know who the enemy is. And so if you don't, and most of and I feel like most Christians don't even want to talk about spiritual warfare. They don't want to talk about the different spirits because if you don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. It 100% does exist. Like 110%. I've seen it. I've experienced it firsthand. It does exist. And when I tell you it exists, it's not a joke. It's serious business. And I feel like it needs to be taken more. And you don't hear pastors talk about it because if pastors talked about that, then they would be talking about the truth. And that's where I don't have a lot of respect for a lot of pastors because even they'll do certain things that don't make sense biblically, right? But people will respect them because they're pastors, which I honestly I think that's stupid. But if you have a real relationship with Jesus, then you'll start to see that the credibility of a lot of teaching out here is not really there. There's a lot of stuff missing, and the spiritual warfare piece is huge. There are some pastors that speak about it. Philip Anthony Mitchell speaks about spiritual warfare. He speaks about the different spirits, Jezebel, Leviathan, like those, the spirit of pride, the spirit of rebellion, the spirit of control, a controlling spirit, a monitoring spirit, somebody who wants to monitor and try to keep track of somebody like that. There's so much different stuff in the spiritual realm that's not talked about in church. There are pastors that will talk about it. Mark Driscoll's another one. He will speak about that. He has sermons that talk about it. If your pastor at your church doesn't talk about spiritual warfare, you need to go to a different church because he's not arming you for battle. Because there's two things that a pastor is supposed to do. Number one, he's supposed to assist you in learning how to build your relationship with Jesus. Number two, he's supposed to prepare you for battle. It used to be big, like preparing for battle used to be big back in the old church days, but church has become so modernized to fit the current climate that they've gone away from those teachings, which isn't good. And that's the reason why there's so much rebellion. There's so much there's so much Jezebel-ish going on inside the church. There's so much Baal idolized worship. There's so much idolatry going on inside the church. That's why, because we've lost sight of the war that we're in. We're too busy trying to be motivated and sing love songs all day that we forget that there's a battle brewing. We're in the midst of a battle every single day. Every single time we wake up from bed, we wake up, we're in spiritual warfare. There's a battle going on. And most Christians aren't even fighting. They just sitting on the sideline, just hoping that the demons don't touch them, not realizing that they're sitting in the midst of demons and they're being touched. Like they're being 110% being touched. That's the crazy part. But they don't want to see it. And you can't make somebody see it if they don't want to, right? But what'll happen is they'll sit there for so long and tell themselves that it's okay that their time will run out. And then when their time runs out, they didn't sat amongst demons so long that they're going to end up sitting amongst demons for eternity. Like you didn't sat with them for so long and didn't know what the battle was and didn't know what you needed to do. You didn't get up off the bench to help your brothers in the fight. That when you go speak to God, God gonna be looking at you like, you what was you doing? Like you wasn't walking with me. Number one, you sat amongst the demons and just was like, okay, like you got to think about that. He's gonna ask questions on the day of judgment, and it's gonna be a lot of Christians that get turned away that think that just because they went to church mean that they good. No, that does not mean that you're good. There's yeah. When he said pick up your cross daily, that means that you walk in with Jesus. And when they say pick up your cross daily, it's not an easy walk, it's a hard walk. And most people don't want to do that walk because that walk requires so much sacrifice. You got to sacrifice what you want, what yourself, your desires for yourself. Because most people want to self-indulge, right? They want to, I know I want this, I want this. And let me tell you, when you're trying to walk that walk, thoughts come in your head, people start talking to you. It's crazy. Since I've been baptized, and it's only been a few weeks that I've had to have some strong prayer. I remember I talked to my boy Manny Brown on the phone after I said, I saw you got baptized. He said, and it's going to get harder. It absolutely positively does get harder because Satan, like, here's the thing, if Satan ain't messing with you, it's because you sitting over there with the demons. Like, that's what it is. He ain't got to bother you because he knows you're not going to do nothing. He's going to go after the people that are preparing for battle. So if you're preparing for battle, expect trials and tribulations, right? If you're not preparing for battle, expect that you're just going to be sitting next to the enemy, like you behind enemy lines chilling. And so I went sideways a little bit on this one, got off track a little bit, but um, those are things that I've been feeling. And like I said, once you make the decision to walk that walk, be prepared for spiritual warfare. Make sure that you read about the different spirits that are out there. Make sure that you understand because most of the evil that was done in the Bible was based on spiritual warfare, and you have to understand it. And so take the time to look into it and study it, right? Don't just study the motivational, Jesus is good, Jesus is graceful, because most Christians could say grace all day, but they can't tell you the type of demonic spirits that are out here that we're at war with. They can't even tell you that, but they can be talk about grace all day. I'm like, yo, you need to be prepared. Like, give grace to your brethren and your sisters when they struggle, but be prepared to go to battle with them. If you can't go to battle with them, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Oh man, that was a good one. But it's GT the Vibe podcast. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share. I will see you guys on the next one.